This is a public service announcement. This is a public service announcement. What you're about to listen to may make you yell, shout, smile, and even laugh out loud. Youth baseball players, coaches, and fans join the Slide Podcast crew on their journey to make baseball fun again. Hear stories from players of all ages, plus tips and tricks from coaches and scouts. Now, if you're ready, give us a loud play ball.
Play ball.
Wow.
Lila, Ashlyn, how was that?
That was great.
I think that was good.
I think it was pretty great. It has to be the best one that we've had yet.
That
We've
was
had
what I was
some-
going for.
You know that you always have to take the cake, man. That was it. Well, welcome to the Slide Podcast, everyone. This is a super exciting episode that we have for you today. And joining me today as my co-host is Miss Lila Brickwall Bratch and Ashlyn Jollifer. How are you ladies doing?
I'm good.
I'm great.
How are you?
Yeah, well, Ashlyn, this is your first time being on the show as not a guest. You've been part of the team now for a few months. How's things going with you? You're in California training. You played some tournaments. How's this fall been for you?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, like being on my baseball team. Probably one of the last times on a travel ball team before high school. So
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying it and having a lot of fun.
Well, before high school.
Like,
Now,
yeah,
like you're only 13, right?
I know. I'm starting high school next year, but this is like my last fall, probably.
Gotcha. I
But
mean,
hopefully I can go to high school down here if I can.
oh, really?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, if it's even possible. Like, my coach and my parents are trying to see, like, if I can come down here and play high school, because my coach is the head, like, the varsity coach for high school near here. So that's the high school I want to go to if I can, hopefully.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, I would have to imagine the weather in the greater Los Angeles area is probably a little bit better than back home in Canada. Is that
But
right?
yeah, it's already snowing there.
Oh no. Well, listen, it is super cold here in South Carolina. We were in the 30s yesterday and it rained all day. It was nasty. I'd take Southern Cal any day, the weather. All right, Lila. Lila, yesterday was your birthday. That's the big 1-4, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I started to put a 4 in the front and make you really old like me. But
Yeah.
so what'd you do yesterday? I mean, that's a big birthday.
So I got like my presents a couple days earlier because I begged my mom. And I got my birthday dinner like the night before that. But then on my birthday, I got to play a banana ball scrimmage with my travel team. So that was pretty fun.
Now, did you see any good trick plays?
Actually, the kid who made the first trick play, his mom texted my mom and was like, "My son might kind of be a dad. I don't know if he'll do it." He was the first one to make a trick play. He did the under the legs and he flipped it up, caught it, and he got him out.
Oh, yeah?
So it was a great play.
I think it's, people hate on it until they get out there and they're able to do that
Yeah.
first one successful. And then they're like, all right, this one's cool. This is cool now. So
Yeah.
now I've tried to do some trick plays in the front yard with my son. It just doesn't work. My body's not coordinated enough anymore. And Lila, you call me old all the time. And you know what? My body's starting to believe you. So I blame you for this. Well, very cool. I was trying to think. I think there was something I wanted to tell you ladies, but you know what? Maybe I'll remember it at the end of this show because I am ready to get to our guest today. So joining us from Orange County, California, tours the country, brings sandlots to the White House. You've seen him on, I think it's even Good Morning America. This guy is famous and an amazing person at that. So joining us today is Mr. CoachBallGame. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, so good to be with you. Thanks for having me. What a day. What a day.
Yeah, it is. Well, Coach, obviously we've got a lot of questions for you, but if there is someone listening that, maybe haven't heard of you yet, and maybe there is one person, tell us a little bit about yourself, man, and what got you here today.
Well, very good. I'll give you my hour-long elevator pitch of CoachBallGame.
There you go.
My real name's James, but nobody calls me James. Nickname's CoachBallGame because my favorite thing to do is coach kids. And it all started in North Carolina. That's where I was born and raised. Played a lot of sandlot baseball in the backyard with my older brothers. They taught me all the sports. We played basketball, football, invited the neighbors over and played neighborhood games all the time. But by college time, it was all baseball. I went to Brown University, played 4 years there, proudly hold the career hit by pitch record at Brown University. That is mine and mine alone. And from there, I moved to LA, Los Angeles. I liked sunshine. I studied theater arts and writing and directing in college. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go to Hollywood and do movies or TV because nobody drafted me. I thought maybe I'd play professional baseball, but I didn't get a phone call after college. So I said, well, let's go out west. As I tried to become an actor and a writer and all of that good stuff, I realized quickly there's no money in it. Unless you're George Clooney, you're basically, you got to find other jobs to feed yourself.
Right.
And
Yeah.
one of those jobs was coaching baseball camps for kids. I had a friend from Brown who had started this in Hermosa Beach, California, and he had a couch for me to sleep on and a gig coaching these kids. So I'd never coached kids, but I love baseball and I like making people laugh. So let's give it a try. I started out as a really bad one, a bad coach. I was angry. I was passive aggressive. I was win at all costs. I didn't like how my playing career panned out. So I was taking that out on these kids, and if they weren't the 8-year-old version of me, then I'd yell at them or try and wean them out.
Mm.
Thankfully, I had mentors who put their arm around me and said, "Hey, Ballgame, you got the energy of 400 humans, but that kid hates baseball now because of the way you spoke to him." And that was a light bulb moment for me. And another light bulb moment was a mentor named Sean Flicky. I go to him my first year of coaching kids and I say, "There's this kid, he won't listen to anything I say. He's very disrespectful, he disrupts, he's using profanity, and I don't have the tools to know what to do with this kid." He took him over to the bleachers. He sat beside him quietly for 2.5 hours. And I watched this kid just spill his guts, his life story on my buddy Sean Flicky. And afterwards, the boy comes back to camp and he's a different kid. He was respectful, he was joyful. I said, "What did you do?" He said, I gave him the thing I never had as a kid. I just gave him some unconditional love. That was the other light bulb moment for me. I go, wait a second. So your priority is not to make him the next Mike Trout? And he said, no, my priority is to make him a happy kid and a productive adult one day. I want to make him a good father one day. I'm a life coach. I'm teaching life lessons. It just happens to be on a baseball field. Once I figured out it's barely baseball and it's way more about life, it took off from there. So 20 years later, a lot more gray in the beard, but here I am on this podcast with you.
That's incredible. I was always like the sore loser growing up. Like I didn't like to lose, and like I struggled with it. Lila, you probably are relating to that a little bit. You know a little bit about me, but it wasn't until I had kids and really was my second son. And James, our coach, you had a chance to have him in one of your camps, but once I saw how hard he was on himself about everything, it was like looking in the mirror, and that totally changed my approach in so many things because I noticed like some of my traits rolling off into my son, and I was like, look, I've got to change to be a role model. And so anyway, Lila, that's where you're supposed to clap. Just to make me be quiet.
I'll say this. I this is a name drop, but I asked a guy named Ken Griffey Jr. I said, "What's your advice to me as a youth coach?" And he was very quick to respond. He was matter of fact. He said, connect with the people, connect with those hearts, get to know them as a person. Way before you teach the player, you got to connect and build trust with the person. So once I learned how to pay attention to them and listen to them, then I think I started to learn how to become a really good coach. It only starts with the human. So win the heart way before you teach any skills. Sounds like you're learning to do that with your
Yeah, it's been a journey, and really this show has brought, even more education to me. I learn a lot from you, and it's been an amazing last few years of an evolution of Coach Aaron. So, Lila, I'm going to stop talking. Coach, I'm going to tell you something. So, I had the tendency to ramble and
nickname,
sometimes
Coach Rambler.
well, Lila came up with something to fix that. And Lila, tell us about it.
So the thing I invented, it's called the yap clap. Anytime Aaron or a guest or co-host, they go on a rant and just keep on talking, I just got clapped twice. Everyone, you got to redirect the subject, but there's no more yapping.
I
Yep.
love that so much. Well, I'm going to get about 4 or 5 yap claps, and that's fine with me.
Lila, I'm going to let you start it off. What questions you got for Coach today?
All right, so the first time I encountered you, it was on TikTok. I saw your nicknames where you let them run around the bases, you call out their nicknames. I want to know, how did that start?
Pretty organically. I had a buddy my first year of coaching, and they were doing it right. Before they were teaching any skills about baseball, they brought the group together and they said, I can't coach you unless I get to know you first. So he would get to know everybody by asking them questions. What do you love? What do you love to eat? What do you love to do? Favorite baseball player? Favorite movie? Superhero? Paint a picture of who you are, and let's give you a nickname. And I noticed that the kids really responded to that. They would walk away from the field going, I'm not Billy, I'm Superman. I really loved that reaction. So I jumped on it, and I love drums. I've always played the drums. And so one thing I want to do is, if I'm going to be working, if I have a job, I want to bring all of me to the table. I want to bring things I love. That way it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like fun. So I bring the drum to every field that I go to. And at first people are like, what's this? What's a drum doing on a baseball field? That's different. I said, well, it makes me feel good. And I would sit on it and I would play that thing. And then I thought, I want to memorize all these nicknames. Let's line them up at home plate. And maybe if I repeat their nicknames a few times as they jog around the bases, I'll learn it faster. So the key to my nickname memorization, I prioritize it, and usually I'll connect a story to a face. That's a lot easier to remember than just an actual name. And then I repeat it by having them run around those bases. And then just every time I see them, I'll either ask the question or I'll try to remember. And usually in about 30 minutes, I've got it. But prioritize and repeat is the key. But I make sure that the nicknames is player driven. I want you to like your nickname. I'm not going to come up with it. I need you to paint a picture of who you are and really love your nicknames. Yeah, started pretty organically, and now it's probably the most popular video I have.
So, out of your playbook, when we started with our field reporters, everyone had their own number. Everyone had, of course, their name. And because of you and your influence, that's what we did. Is everyone has a nickname now, and they have to give me that at the beginning. And it goes on the back of their slide jersey. And now the public is recognizing a lot of these kids based on their nicknames, and it is so awesome.
It's lovely. I love to see it. Yeah, I've coached kids back in 2005 who are now dads, and they're 30 years old, and I don't call them John. I call them Burrito Boy or Watermelon, whatever it might be. But those nicknames stick, and it goes a long way. There's a reason nicknames and attaboys and attagirls have been around baseball and softball for generations.
That's right.
I jumped on it and went head first into that because it brings a birthday party vibe to the field. It brings joy.
Yeah, No kidding. Well, let's go back in time, back to when you found the game yourself. Like, do you remember that, and what made you fall in love with the game?
Yeah, my dad loved the game of baseball, but by the time I came around, it was slow pitch softball. So I was the bat boy, and we would go to the field, and I would pitch. I would pitch underhand softball to him, and he would take batting practice. And I had two older brothers who taught me a lot about the game of baseball as well in the backyard with those sandlot games. But I think my first visual memory of baseball is the Chicago Cubs. Growing up in North Carolina, I'd come home from school and there'd be one team playing on TV, and that was the Cubs. They
That's
didn't
right.
have lights at Wrigley Field until 1988. So I'd come home and make this big bowl of applesauce, an entire jar, and I would sit there with this tiny spoon, take little bites of my applesauce, and watch the entire game. Andre Dawson playing in the outfield, Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace, Sean Dunston in the infield. Harry Carey narrated my youth. None of these kids listening to this podcast know those names, and that's fine. But watching games at home with my brothers and with my dad, that was where the love sparked. But I would say my first love was basketball because I could do that by myself. So I would shoot hoops for hours by myself. But we had a big enough backyard where we were able to build a pitcher's mound. There's a big green wall back there. We could throw tennis balls up against it. So the Cubbies and backyard sandlot games is where the love began.
That was me. I kind of learned. I was a late bloomer in the baseball world. I didn't really start playing any sports until I was around 10. And how I learned to play was some of my friends would go to this abandoned open field, and they, took their feet, and we scrubbed out the bases, so there was a clear. And but that's how I learned to play, was over there, and we had a tree. We had one tree, and that was our backstop. So either we hit that tree and learn how to be accurate, or we were chasing the ball the whole time. So, very, very much the same thing. So,
Yeah, well, it's important to show kids these days that that's possible. I don't think people know something exists until they see it. So when I go on my sandlot tour and I drop cardboard down as bases and we have one bat and one tennis ball, and I say, okay, 6-on-6, let's play, immediately the parents go, whoa, these kids are smiling and jumping up and down and having a great time. They don't have a real baseball field. They don't have helmets on. Some of them aren't even wearing gloves, but they're playing the game. They're learning the game, and that stems from the Dominican Republic. If you go down there, there's kids ages 7 up to 13, no shoes. A lot of them don't even have shirts, but they are out there with zero coaches, zero parents, and they're playing a neighborhood game. And that some of the best baseball players playing right now are from those third world countries. So find what you can, tennis ball, bottle cap, broomstick, and play. And when kids see that, when families see that, they go, man, I think you could learn this game in the cul-de-sac. You could invite your
yeah,
neighbors over. And
that's
a
right.
time when it's very head down culture, let's get our heads up. Let's go into the street and let's play a stickball game in the cul-de-sac. Let's invite some neighbors. Man, conversation is so necessary these days with the
Exactly.
isolation of devices. And there's no better sport for conversation than baseball or softball. Maybe golf. Golf is right there. I love a good conversation there too. But yeah, sandlot ball, baby.
Listen, Lila, have you ever went out and threw a tennis ball up on your roof and tried to work on your reflexes and catch it when it comes
Yeah,
down?
when it comes back down, you gotta try to catch it. Yeah.
I
Mm.
spent
A good
many of
story here.
afternoon.
Here's another name drop flex. I was interviewing Ozzie Smith, the Wizard of Oz, best shortstop
Mm-hmm.
of all time. And growing up in Watts, California, he learned how to do backflips by doing these backflips into sawdust piles at a sawdust mill. Well, when he'd come home, he had a tennis ball and he'd get in his backyard and he'd toss the ball up over the roof, and then he'd run through the house, and then he'd go to the other side of the house and try and catch it before it hit the ground. So if you want to go Ozzie Smith style, that's extra credit.
I'm too
I
slow
think
for
you
that.
should.
Yeah, me too. Also, I would have to go through the maze of toys my little brother leaves across the house.
Oh, yeah, a lot of jumping involved.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'd
that's
really be good after
obstacles.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an Iron Man through your house. All right, Ashlyn, what you got for Coach?
What position did you play when you played baseball?
Oh,
Or
good
what was your
question.
favorite position?
I'd say growing up, it was pitcher and shortstop. There was the most action there, and I was pretty good at it at a young age. But I started to learn as I got into my teens that those positions, especially if I'm a freshman going into high school, tough to get a starting job at those positions. So I quickly learned, well, let's be an athlete. I played football, played soccer, played basketball, and that really helped my footwork and it allowed me to change positions. So I got on the baseball field. Tracking down a fly ball wasn't too difficult because I was a free safety in football. The footwork of a first baseman wasn't too difficult because I played basketball and those defensive skills I picked up there. So by the end of it all, when I'm a senior in college, I was playing center field. But there was only one spot available my freshman year of college, and that was right field. I had not played much outfield in my life, but again, just learning those other sports, being a good athlete, and being open at a young age to trying different positions, that earned me a starting spot my freshman year. So when kids say, I'm a pitcher, that's it. I'm a second baseman. I'm like, how old are you? And I just asked the question because there's going to be a moment, there's going to be a tryout that you go to where you're not the best player at that tryout. And some might think you're right middle of the road or even the worst. There were many a tryout when I was the worst player at a tryout, but I was open to playing other positions. I grinded, and I tried to bring character to the forefront, and that won me some starting spots. So all that to say, I think my favorite position now is every one of
Nice.
That was a good way to check all the boxes there, right,
them. Yeah,
Ashlyn?
I know, safe.
I did see there was a podcast or there was a clip on Instagram, and they were asking. It was two guys asking each other what the hardest position, and they had some results that one of them that was reading from. You guys want to guess like what the hardest position in all of sports was?
Ladies first.
Yeah,
Like in baseball or all sports?
all sports. Now I'll tell you, number one is baseball, but
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you the position. Which one do you think it is?
I think
Is it
it's
catcher?
catcher, yeah.
Coach, what you think?
Yeah, my instinct goes catcher. That's the toughest position.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. That was it. Yeah,
Yeah.
catcher. I was proud of you, Lila. When I saw that, you immediately came to mind, and I'm like, Lila's the brick wall. So,
Mhm.
Brick
and I
Wall.
got to
There
see,
you go. So that's not your real name. That's your nickname, Brick Wall.
Yeah. Brickwall
Okay.
Bratch. Because my last name is Bratcher, and I've caught almost all my life. That's my gamer tag. That's how. Because my dad and me were thinking of a gamer tag. He was like, Brickwall Bratch. There you go.
Boom. I love it. Well, catchers become coaches and managers, so you've got a long career in the sport ahead of you.
yeah, and journalism. She's been invited now from her interviews with with a bunch of different things. She's been invited to come interview at different events, and she's there's no telling what she's going to do in her future, Coach. I mean, bright future. And
Way
Ashlyn, of
ahead of the
course, I'm
game. Way ahead of the game. I
yeah.
didn't have any idea what I wanted to do with my life till I was like 32. So, yeah, a lot of exploring the space for me.
Well, Coach, you do a lot of life lessons throughout your sandlots. And I think so many of those lessons are lost on a lot of adults these days. What advice would you give to, a new parent, that just signs their, 7, 8-year-old up for their first year of baseball? Knowing the environment that is out there, what advice would you give that parent?
Create a two-way street where you're asking questions to the kid and you're listening to the kid. Don't put any of your life or your wishes into their life. Allow them to have their own youth sports life. There's a great question that I advise every parent to ask. What kind of fan do you need me to be for you? Whether that's in the car ride to a game, right before a game starts. It can't even be during practice. But whether you're coaching that kid or just parenting from the bleachers, ask them, when do you feel at your best? Do you like it when I'm cheering? Do you like it when I'm quiet? Do you like it when I'm not looking? My mom and dad understood that early on. They loved to sit behind the left field wall and they just kept score. They had a scorebook and they would quietly keep score and they would smile. They would smile at the 0 for 5, they'd smile at the 5 for 5, and they prioritized character. They wanted to make sure that I was being a good person, respectful to my teammates, the other players on the other team, the umpires specifically. And those were the only moments when they got or mad. It was when I was being disrespectful to the game and not bringing character to the table, and I remember it. So that's the lens that I look through now as a parent of girls that play softball and they dance. There's high leverage moments out there, and I want them to succeed. I feel like a lot of parents get anxious at games because they don't want to see their kid fail. But I would say to those parents, totally get it. You don't want to see your kid work super hard and then fail at that thing that they really love. But zoom out, big picture, that's a very important life lesson that they need. This game, when they're 7 or 8, nothing about it is life or death. But down the road, they're going to have moments of temptation in their teens. They're going to have dark moments in their 20s. They're going to have relationships that go wrong, job interviews that go sour. They're going to have dark, bad moments, and they need tools to how to combat that. How do I overcome this adversity? So that's where we as parents come in the world of youth sports. How many life lessons can we teach these kids? And a lot of times, the most learning happens in failure. So embrace the failure. Look at it as an opportunity, and just make sure you're bringing common sense to the table. I've coached 150,000 kids in my life. One has made it to the major leagues. So just expect 0 of the kids you ever see are going to make it to the major leagues, but they'll all be adults one day. They'll all be servers of your community one day. And for me, as a daughter of two, as a dad of 2 daughters, some of these kids, some of these boys on these teams, they might want to date my daughter one day. And so I better make them a very good person. Teach them how to be a good person. Be a life coach, a life parent, and just let the kid explore their own sports world. That's what I'd say.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. I completely agree, Coach. You know, about, the game, in life, we've said this so much on the show is baseball's a game of failure that you either have to love and be in love with in order to last and survive, the failure. And, there's so much about that in itself that relates to life. And kids being able to, and I watch a lot of parents do this, is, they shelter their kids from that failure and they only want to go to a team that wins. Unfortunately, I say this a lot to my kids is you have to fail, you have to lose in order to appreciate and learn how to win. Because if you win all the time, like you're not really learning a lot. In that loss, you're learning so much more. And I don't know. I get cold chills when I hear you talk about it, Coach, because there's so many life lessons that are easily taught. Kids saying, Lila, Ashlyn, I don't know if you guys have ever been in this situation, but blaming something on the coaches. You know what? In life, and I just released a clip of me saying this last night, is you're not going to be able, as you become an adult, you're not going to be able to necessarily pick who your bosses are. As you get older, your teachers, your professors, and so you can't use them as an excuse as to why you're not successful, because it's all internal and it's your ability to push through some of those challenges and obstacles. Sorry, Lila, I get on my soapbox here. So Lila, what you got now?
Okay, so I know that you have fun strategies to teach your youth players, like how to field a ground ball, how to throw, and stuff like that. I want to know, how did you come up with those?
Well, good question there. It was just paying attention to the kids, kind of throwing paint against the wall and seeing what stuck. Because the key is to engage. I was a math teacher for a little while, and I learned quickly, unless you make something fun, man, kids are gonna walk away quickly. And the same with baseball. There wasn't a lot of kids that I was coaching that were gung ho, 100% all in on this baseball thing. I had to go fishing and reel them in. So I quickly found out kids respond to animal references. So I went that route. Kids respond to things that rhyme, poetry, song, and they respond to humor. And one thing I really responded to as a kid was storytelling. So I brought that to the mix as well. And when you got stories, you got music, you got catchphrases and animal references, I learned, wow, I'm teaching a kid how to field a ground ball. I'm teaching a kid how to run around these bases, and it can be done in a very boring manner. If you just look at it on paper, it's like kid runs from home to first to second. But if you throw in some dancing, some nicknames, a little bit of art, and just some exploration, just a little joy, you can make anything really fun. So that was adapting to what I saw, and I'm constantly doing that. I'm trying to figure out how are kids talking to each other these days, and then I'll sometimes pull out things I would say that were cool back in 1994, like snap, that was lit.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's Aaron.
there you
That
go,
is his dad.
right? And then I'll surprise the kids every once in a while and go, I'm telling you what, your Riz, it slaps, no caps. And
Yes,
I
yeah,
will
that's Aaron.
totally jump in there, but I'm always a little bit behind. I'm always the guy with the gray beard who's a little bit lame. But I've learned, hey, kids respond to humor, and that's where I fall into place. So, yeah, just responding to what I saw.
Did that sound familiar?
Sounds a bit familiar, I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, people are going to start saying it again. Everything comes back around. So
it is. Yeah.
just wait. Just wait.
You're gonna say it so long that it goes back into style?
That's right. Everything comes back in.
Look, snap still, I mean, I say that all the time. I mean, I feel like that's still like a cool word. I mean, I say Riz, no cap, and all that fun stuff too. But you know what? I'm going to tell you. So, my son, Lila, you've never attended a Sandlot, right? Or with CoachBallGame? Okay. So, one of his ways that he teaches his fielders to bend their knees and get ready, for the ball is something called dancing on a toilet, right? So you're gonna like imagine sitting down on the toilet, right? So you
Sure.
put your butt out there, and then you got to dance. You got to get your glove down. And you got to dance. Well, listen, I am not that guy, right? Like coach, I feel weird if I do some of that stuff. But you know what? I watched that camp that my son was at, and I saw how those kids reacted, and even some of the older kids that might be too cool for school kind of thing, even those kids were doing it and having fun. So I took it back, and I was doing it with our rec teams, and I did it like I knew I looked weird and probably people laughed, but you know what, at the end of the day, I'm out there having fun with kids, so it didn't matter. But we were out, I had kids out of their shell, kids that would never talk to me, was doing it. And I'm gonna tell you, coach, I had two mamas come up to me afterwards and ask me if I could do special lessons with their kids. And like I'm like, just being silly and goofy out here. And
Yeah, who would have thought it'd be novel? These things that I do, they're pretty simple. It's
yeah.
getting into the brain of a child and thinking, okay, they're tired of the words down and ready. That goes in one ear and out the other. How can we make it a little more creative? So, yeah, let's imagine you're on a toilet, you're dancing on a toilet, and I see a lot of kids when they get down and ready, they put their hands on their knees. Well, that kind of looks like you're about to throw up. So I throw up. Let's hold pizzas in our hand
That's
while
right.
we're
That's right.
dancing
Hold
on a
peace.
toilet. And then that evolved to a song. And the whole reason for any type of melody is you want the kid to go home and sing that song to their parents. That means you're the fun coach, and they actually learned something. So
That's right.
yeah, it's all getting in those brains. How can we? How
Ashlyn, what you got, ma'am?
When did you start social media and how has that helped you with coaching and everything and connections?
Well, very good. I was late to the party. I was a big fan of my flip phone, which you probably don't know anything about, but I loved my flip phone all the way to 2017. So I'm about 4 years late on the whole iPhone party. But once I got it, I had a wife and two sister-in-laws who were like, "Have you heard of social media?" I said, that's kind of like TV, right? It's like media, but socially? And they said, yeah, download this app called Instagram. So I figured out how to download the app. I go to the baseball field and I remember texting my sister-in-law in 2017, I know how to film the video with my camera app. Now, how do I upload it to Instagram? So she literally showed me the button to push to get it up. And you can scroll back my first Instagram post. It's either 16 or 17, and it's just pictures or maybe a video of me coaching the kids. And I thought, well, I love writing, I love directing. I can learn how to edit, and then I can basically have my own TV show on this little rectangular thing. So the answer is 2017, and it was just things that made me happy. I would just film things that made me laugh. If I saw kids screaming "attaboy" or "attagirl" at each other, I'd say, "Hey, that's a great idea. Let's have you two scream "attaboy" or "attagirl," and I'll film that." Or if there were some good nicknames. I was coaching a group of 12-year-old boys, and we had a 90-minute practice where there was tons of elite skilled baseball going on. But the moment that they smiled the most was when two kids were having a staring contest. And that was very telling to me. I was like, man, so these 12-year-olds who play 4 games every week in their big tournaments, they want to just stare at each other and see who can stare the longest without blinking. How cool is that? Um, I looked down to see if I got a yap clap because I was just staring off into space going. I looked, I did not get a yap clap. So, man, how about that?
She gives you
Uh,
some grace.
I think when you get to the point in your answer when you forgot what the question was, you need a yap clap.
Mhm.
That 2017 is when the iPhone came in, but I still have the flip phone. I'll never throw that.
Yeah, I
When you
still
were
have my
talking about
original. Still have my original iPod.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I was late to the game on those things too. So
I
and I
actually, when my CD player broke in my 1997 Toyota Corolla car, I had a portable iPod player that I Velcroed to the
Yep.
dash of my car, and I would listen to Hootie and the Blowfish all day long, right there on the dash of the car. How about it?
What was your first car, Coach?
It was a Mazda Protege. 93
Okay.
Mazda Protege, which was a hand-me-down from my brother. So I had lots of hand-me-downs from the brothers, and that was the first car.
I had a 19. I started driving in 94, but I had a 1983 Mazda RX-7 was my first. Anyway, you,
Solid.
you said something about cars, and I'm like, we're similar in age. So, all right, Lila, you,
Thank
you had
goodness we
some good.
have Lila and Ashlyn here to ring us back in.
I
Otherwise,
know it.
everybody just tune out from this podcast.
Get us going.
I forgot my question while you guys were talking. Okay, cool. Go to Ashton real quick. Let me think about it.
Well, let
Ashlyn,
me
what you
ask
got?
you a question then.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. What is your advice to me as a youth coach? Or what do you love about your favorite coach? I want advice.
So my favorite coach is probably my catching coach, Josh. He was on the show. I like that he pushes me the same amount that he pushes the boys. Like he doesn't go easy on me. He's always getting me working. He keeps me on my toes and stuff. I like that.
Very good. So he figured out early on that you don't want any special treatment. You want to be
Yeah.
right in there. Very good. Very good. Specifically, maybe, and no names here, but something that has happened in your life that you didn't like, a coach that was toxic in some way and it turned you off. Got one of
Nothing that
those?
I can really think of. I've always had good coaches.
Really? Ashlyn, how about you? Any good, bad, or ugly stories?
Yeah, I mean, all my coaches that I know were pretty good. I remember my mom telling me a few years ago how when I was 7 or 8, one of my coaches, I don't know if it was the coach or the parent, but they were saying how I should like play softball and stuff. And um I didn't remember that at all because I was super young and I didn't even know anything about it until a few years ago. But I know that happened, but that didn't really affect me because I don't care. I don't care what other people say.
So, for both of you girls, if you had to choose between baseball and softball, is it baseball all the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Neither
And
one
you
of
know
these
I
my
girls
alma
have
definitely.
mater,
ever.
Brown University, Olivia
Yeah.
Pichardo.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, she's right there. So she's paving the way for you gals. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
amazing. Do you follow? You got to follow my gal, Coach Allie, Alligator, Allie Lacey.
We know
She's
her.
big
She's
into the
been a
world
part
of
of the show.
baseball.
Yeah.
She
I
coaches
was
these
just at a
Sorry,
ladies.
tournament
That's
with
our
her this
coach.
weekend.
No way. She's the
Yeah.
best. So I've met her in my MLB work with Play Ball, and she lives right here in Southern California. So she's running the girls' side of ball game, baseball and softball. So it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. She was a host on the show for about 11, 12 months here on the show with us. And she actually introduced me to these ladies and the whole world of women's baseball, which I am so fascinated with.
Small world, small world.
It is. It
Yeah.
is very, very. Lila, you remember your question yet?
I do actually.
Okay.
So I was wondering if you could do anything other than coaching, what would you do?
Well, I do think it would be like writing and acting in film. I think yeah, I took so many classes in that world of art, and uh, I just did a movie called Rally Caps where I got to basically play myself. And the coolest thing there is not only do you hit a lot of different personality types with themes from a movie, but it lasts forever. You know, that movie will last a lifetime. So I would say that I really enjoy the process of trying to bring a scene to life and writing a really moving piece and then trying to make it as real as possible. I think a lot of people think acting is how theatrical and fake can I be when it's actually the opposite. You know, you're just trying to be as honest as possible. So I love that process of getting outside my head. There's a lot of parallels to sports where you want to get out of your own head and just be present and honest. And then the other thing would be just a drummer in a traveling band. I kind of did that in college and a little bit in my 20s. And every time I get behind a drum set with friends and play music, that's when I feel like a 7-year-old boy again. That's when I'm just right in my wheelhouse. So I gave you two there.
What kind of music do you play in your band?
We played these rock covers, so a lot of Tom Petty. A lot of Tom Petty. There's some Sublime in there, and then we'll try and get outside the box with some newer things. But anything these rock, that's our wheelhouse. Pearl Jam, Collective
Okay.
Soul, yeah, that's our wheelhouse.
See, I'm an 80s baby. You and I probably are close. I latched on to the 80s glam scene and the hair bands in
Yeah, I
LA.
missed
And
it. I
man,
just missed it. I don't think I really got into music till early to mid '90s. So that's when it hit me. So I was more in the grunge
yeah,
phase. But yeah, now I can really look back and respect the '80s big time.
yeah. There you go. Hey, Lila, I have a question for you to ask Coach.
Hmm.
You ready?
Yeah.
Remember that question that you say I inevitably bring up every episode? Ask him this question. Do me a favor. Just ask him that question.
What's your favorite football team?
Miami Dolphins. Let's go.
Of course. Every single time.
And Miami Dolphins. So, I mean, I'm from North Carolina, so I've got my Air Jordan, Michael Jordan Tar Heel jersey behind me there. But the Panthers didn't come around until '94.
That's right.
So my first 12 years of life, it was my father. My father grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, big Dolphins fan. So Dan Marino was my guy, and
That's
the
it.
Dolphins will forever be my favorite team. And being a Cubs fan and a Dolphins fan, I just figured, well, loss and failure and sadness is a part of sports until 2016 happened when the Cubs won the World Series. But one wish in the world of sports, let's see a Dolphins Super Bowl before I go. I'll give you two. My dad was born in Cleveland, Ohio, a big Cleveland Indians fan growing up, now Cleveland Guardians fan. Let's see them win a World Series because he was born in 1949. You know when the last Cleveland Guardians World Series was?
Oh,
When?
1948. So he missed it by 1 year.
1 year. Wow.
I know. So
I know a guy who plays for the Guardians. He doesn't play professional, but he does play in one of their lower levels.
look at
He's
there.
from my city. I've trained with him. His name is Logan Clark. He's a pretty cool dude.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Well, he might help them get there one day.
Hopefully.
Well, Lila, I did set you up for that because I kind of knew that he was a Dolphins fan, and I just figured we would.
Look at his eye black. Aaron's got the eye black on.
Well, listen,
He
I had to
does
put
it every
this.
single time.
No, I don't. But today I'm so cold outside. Look, I've got a thermal shirt on and a sweatshirt on because it's so cold here, and I wanted to look tropical, so I had to do.
I did not put the Dolphins together with the eye black. I just thought you were that you were a very eccentric explorer of the space when it comes to your look.
Well, eye black's kind of my thing for the show.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I'm known for, and so I get creative with it every once in a
I
while.
have a funny picture of when they had to reschedule. They rescheduled our our interview, and Aaron had all his eye black on. It was so funny.
What?
Let me see if I can find it.
Did I send a picture to you? I think that the kids that are on the show, they kind of look forward to see what I show up with, and some of them, like, they'll reach over and tell them he's got eye black on, and because I have to do it, you know. Some episodes I do it a little bit more. I do the Drip King, the full face stuff every once in a while, and Ashlyn, you got to jump in and join me every time you get on the show. I want to see some cool eye black. Is that cool? Can we do that?
Yeah, maybe next time if I come on again, I'll try and do some cool eye black.
There was a couple girls, Coach. We had the Ball Girls team on after they went to Cooperstown. Allie and I, we hosted the Ball Girls on an episode, and we challenged a few of those girls to go to school the next day with their eye black on, and they did.
Let's go.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is eye black residue. You wore it yesterday, and there's still a little bit left over today.
That happens every single time.
Even
if I take a shower, it gets stuck on there.
Yeah, that'd be a great band name. Great band name would be eye black residue.
Eye black residue.
Look, so if like today, for example, I'll turn around here and I'll go back to work and I'll forget this is on. I will go out to restaurants. I'll go shopping, and I forget all about this until my wife's like, "You do know you still have your makeup on, right?" And I was like,
"Love it."
But you know what? People are used to it with me. So, well, Coach, I got to ask, as you were growing up, who was that one person that you saw on TV that really like helped solidify the love of the game? Who was that hero for you?
Yeah, Andre Dawson. He was my favorite player growing up as the hawk in right field for the Cubbies. And they say don't meet your heroes, but the opportunity presented itself. I got to throw out the first pitch at Wrigley Field, and I got to shake his hand and let him know he's my favorite player of all time. And I grew up watching him play right here in right field. And then getting a job with MLB is that he coaches with me every year at the All-Star Game. He'll come wherever the All-Star Game is, and we'll coach a camp together with the kids wherever the All-Star Game might be. It was in Arlington this past year. We've done it together in Seattle as well. Oh, love that. Eye black salute, Coach, indeed. So Andre couldn't have been cooler. You can, I'm sure there's stories out there of meeting heroes and they aren't gracious with their time, or they're not present, or they're not nice. He was all the things. He was great. And I have this big drum. It's a conga drum with 60 signatures on it of Hall of Famers, baseball players from years past. And when I met him for the first time, we were coaching a camp in Santa Monica together on the beach. And
I
he said,
remember I
any of
saw
these kids
pictures.
want a nickname, or any of these kids want an autograph? I'll be happy to sign it. And I said, well, I got a drum right over there, and can I be the first? He signed that drum. So he's got a beautiful signature. He actually writes left-handed, and it looks like. And Michael Jordan, as an athlete, I couldn't take my eyes off him. I loved watching him play the game of basketball. I loved how he competed. I loved how he played defense. Everybody talks about how many points he scored, but he was all NBA defensive guy every year too. So
Yep.
there you go.
That was that's two great ones right there. I like you. I used to get home every day after school, turn on WGN, and it was always Harry Carey and the Cubs. And
Yeah.
I was more of the Oakland A's guy. I was a big Canseco's fan. Mark McGwire. I was watching when, of course, the World Series and San Francisco, the quake and everything. But man, I loved watching the Cubs, though. Like
Yeah.
Sandberg, Mark Grace, Sean Dunston, like everyone you said, man. That was just, I feel like that was the best years of baseball. And maybe it's my age, but like I feel like baseball has just changed so much over the last 15 years that it just doesn't remind me of the same game that I used to watch as a kid. Do
Yeah,
you
it's
get
funny.
that?
I don't know if it's the game or if it's our age, because I remember Saturday Night Live being at its height when I was like 11 or 12. And
Yep.
the game of basketball was at its height when I was 11 or 12. Like, I don't even watch NBA anymore. So I think it might be a little bit of both. But yeah, there's something very impressionable about those years, 10, 11, 12, 13, that stick with you. So I don't know.
Very true. I used to watch Sunday night baseball on ESPN, Tuesday night doubleheaders, Friday night doubleheaders. Wednesday night. It was every night of the week back then. So,
Yeah.
all right, ladies, we have we're getting down to our final few questions. You guys have anything you'd like to ask Coach before we wrap up shop?
I've got nothing.
No,
Mm.
Ashlyn, you got anything?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, look, if Coach has some sandlots around in the area, he's all the time looking for extra volunteers and coaches to help him. You ladies will have to reach out and come help him with a camp.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
right.
Yeah, that'd
That's
be
right.
fun.
Just follow me on myspace.com and you can find out where I'm going to be. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, Lila, I'm going to let you close it with the last question here. And you know what we got, right, Lila? Just make sure
Yeah.
you're on track. Okay.
This is
All right.
the toughest question.
I don't know who Lila is. I go brick wall all the
Brick
way.
wall. I'm sorry. Brick wall.
Brick wall. All right. So this is your hardest question of the whole entire episode. Let's picture it. You're ninth inning. Let's go 2 outs. You're down by 3. Bases loaded. Full count. You're walking up to the plate. What's your walk-up song?
Walk-up song. Wow. I think it's got to be the theme song to Field of Dreams. Ooh.
Ooh.
If you've ever seen that movie Field of Dreams, there's just something about it that gets me. It gets me all good in the feels. So, theme song to Field of Dreams, and I'm hitting a bomb. I'm going to hit a couple of foul balls first, but then I'm going bomb ski.
There you go. That was very well said. Very well said. So, well, Coach, look, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of, I know, your busy schedule to come hop on and join talk to us. We have a lot of players, a lot of parents, a lot of coaches listen to the show. And I know, like, most of them probably knew you, but if they didn't, I know they all learned something today. So thank you very much for your time. I want to thank everyone that's out there listening right now. Make sure you share this podcast with everyone. And if you've got a player that you want to have come on the show and talk about their love and passion for the game, send us a message. Follow us on social media, send us a message, and we'll see about getting your player on the show. So, Coach, we're at the last thing of the show. And just like I said at the beginning, you get to start the show and you get to close the shows. So, Ashlyn, first episode, I'm going to let you do it, okay?
And no yap clap.
It didn't show up today. I didn't talk a whole lot. So, she's usually like sniping me. So, she's usually coming after me.
I usually don't get to guess because I feel bad. I'm like, well, this is their answer, even though it's like long-winded.
There was
long-winded. Oh, there was
one. I was editing the episode and I didn't notice her when we were recording, but there was one and she was doing this and I could tell she was about to do it. And then they got quiet and I was like, she was about to clap the guest.
I give them a chance. I give them a chance, but if it gets too long, I think about it. I'm like,
hey, you're the captain. You're the catcher, for crying out loud. You're the captain. You got to keep this ship going.
She does. She keeps me in line and keeps us all going. So, all right, Ashlyn, let's close it out.
All right, Coach. Until next time.
I'll catch you on the slide.
We thank you for toughing it out and pushing through. Now, let's go teach the world great sportsmanship, leadership, to go inspire someone through your dedication and excitement for the game. Make sure to smash the like and follow button on all social media at The Slide Podcast Show and The Slide Pod on Twitter. Plus, leave us a review and feedback. Until next time, we'll catch you on the slide.